with it. Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lies all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, ain't ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, came from smoking in the hallway. Now we got shows, boys feeling like Broadway. Always look both ways, even on a crossway. Driving down Cross Bay, out town Barclays. Really on big things, came up a small way. Championship rings, baby, that's a ball game. Oh, she want a little bag, baby, that's small change. Yeah, that money talk. If we ain't cool, then cut me off. No breaking news, don't run your mouth. Thought it was the plug, now he running off. Thought it was a plug, now he running off. What you gonna do? Where you at? Who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hand.
Hey guys, welcome to the 5 F's to Love. You're probably thinking, man, they've been away for a minute. Yes, we have. We actually went on a little break for the month of April, but now we are back. Tonight, you know, it's Real Talk with the Men, and we're going to talk about Hollywood and social media's depiction of a black man. I think that's an important conversation, not because I'm a black woman, but because I kind of think, I don't know, I think they're kind of getting a raw deal right now. But we're going to have a real conversation about this because I think it's really important. And you already know who's here. It is a whole stream of guys. So just get ready for this major conversation. We're going to bring in Gaylon. Hey, Gaylon.
I was muted, excuse me. Hey there. How you all doing?
Hey, we just saw each other, right?
Yeah, like literally yesterday.
All right. What's going on, RJ?
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Listen, so how's the baby? You were just what? With him?
Just made it from my son's spring band concert just in the nick of time. So it was great.
Okay. You know, by the way, I was not at all offended because I play 6 different instruments. I love music. And my parents were always at a concert for me. So all I have to say is I supported it 100%. Honestly, he could have played us on in. That would have been awesome.
You love that.
He could have played us right on in. Well, you guys know Dr. Campbell is here. Dr. Campbell, I just want to say, you just need to just call yourself Swag. Period. Because
I miss you. The Insta. What about the Insta? Talk to me. What about the Insta?
Honey, your Insta is hot. Like, I was like hitting it. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, you've just been so hot.
Good to be back. Good to be back, Christine. Good to see you. Fellas, good to see y'all too. It's been a minute. Miss y'all.
Good to see you.
It has been a minute. And you guys know Tennessee is in the house. What's going on? Look, I would say the Campbell boys are here. I don't know. And I just
what's up, fellas?
My do that. There he is.
Good to see you.
Dr. Campbell, do me a favor. Can you turn your device so we can actually see you? Because now you look very tight in comparison.
Oh, okay. Let me do this. Flip it to the landscape.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Carry on. I'm gonna try that.
If that's possible, that would be great. So that way you won't look so tiny. Because I know people are going to be like, oh, Dr. Campbell was so small in comparison. Okay, wait a minute. I moved it better.
Hold up. How about this? Is this better?
No, that's fine. Because you know how the Campbell boys have their whole, the Teamsters. They'll get the Teamsters on me. I don't even want it.
What's up, RJ?
What's good?
Okay.
What's good?
It's all good, man. It's all good. How you doing, Gaylon, bro?
Good to see you. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
So did you guys miss seeing each other on Thursdays?
Well, it's always good to be in the company of good guys.
For sure.
Right.
Our routine. No question.
Okay, I'm going to say, honestly, I think I kind of missed you guys a little bit. It was weird because Thursdays came around and I didn't see anybody. So it was a little weird for a minute. So I am kind of
you missing people, Christine? Oh, wow. Look at that.
I know me missing somebody. Isn't that huge? RJ, you know what, RJ? I'll tell you, sometimes RJ knowing me the way he does, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't even know. Okay, so here we go. Let me see, Dr. Campbell. There you go. All right, so
here I am. Let me just get back in here.
I want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight. We got James Poole. He says he's glad to be here. I'm glad, that you're here hanging out with us. And he said, real men. All right. And then we have Chantel P. She said, hey, sweetie, at Tim Good Guy, aka Big Tennessee. Hello, everyone. You know, Tim's fan club will do a shout out in a minute, won't they? Tim, I'm surprised. This
all right.
I thought you was gonna rally in. At one point, Tim said he was going to challenge you guys to see who could get the most people to come in and check out the podcast. Tim, are you still doing that?
Nah, think I'm just gonna do me. Everybody do.
You're not going to challenge them?
Nah, no need to challenge my brother. They got their own thing. I got mine. Ain't no challenge thing like that.
There's no challenge? Okay, because I'm always open for a challenge. I'm pretty competitive. So, I mean, for me, it's like game on. If that's what we're doing, I was going to join in.
You would lose.
Okay. Is that a challenge?
There's your challenge. There's a challenge right there.
Challenge accepted.
I lose broadly.
I feel like you just threw out a challenge. Maybe I'm accepting it, Dr. Campbell.
You should accept it. I mean, you're a competitive person. You said it.
I'm a very competitive person.
There you go. So challenge accepted or not?
All right, so let's do it, Campbell.
All right.
Y'all got a week to get it together. Next week, we'll see.
Let's do it.
Oh no, I'm on it tonight. I'm just going
you want it live and direct right now. Oh, she said she wants
it. Like it's first commercial break. I'm on it.
Well, let me grab my phone now. Let me grab my phone and start hitting some posts up.
Look, Dr. Campbell said, let me get my phone on that commercial break.
Right.
Let me get in on this. Okay, so guys, listen, I do want to have a real conversation. I really appreciate you guys joining in. So the first question I do want to ask you guys is, how is the Black man positioned in America today? What's your thoughts around that? And so I'm going to start with you, RJ.
That's a loaded question. It really depends on everyone's perspective, right? You know, we are positioned as good men, good father figures, good husbands, good spouses on one side of the coin, and the other side of the coin, we're no good, we're dogs, we're not good enough. It's interesting. There was something going around on the Breakfast Club this week. I'm sure some of you probably heard about it. I forget the young lady's name, and she's a guest host talking about that she would never date a Black man that's a bus driver. He would have to own the bus company. So the belittlement there is just like mind-blowing. You know what I mean? And so, I think our position is really based on the perspective of the individuals or women, for that perspective, that are, trying to choose us or want to be with us or after us. And in the greater scheme of things, we're also feared when we shouldn't be. There are a lot of challenges that we face as Black men every single day that just go untold because we're just so accustomed to it.
Wow, that's interesting. Tim Campbell, good guy.
Try to be more specific on what you're actually meaning. I mean, it's kind of like open-ended a little bit.
Well, the thing is, when you think about the Black man, I wanted to ask you, how do you think they're positioned today in America from your perspective? Is the Black man admired? Do you feel that he's being misunderstood? Do you think he's being projected in a negative light?
I think it's a little bit of all of the above, but I think a lot of it is the Black man in general. I mean, how you carry yourself and how you stand 10 toes down for yours, you're going to demand your respect. I mean, just like with the rest of the brothers on the set right now, whatever, I don't think they have any problem getting any respect from anybody because they stand on they stand for something. Now, if you're out here doing a bunch of bullshit and all that stuff and you ain't really got a leg to stand on, then that could possibly have something to do with it. So it's kind of just depending on the person who is, because a real man, Black, white, or whatever, I would like to think that he's going to stand on his regardless and demand his respect.
Okay. And what do you think, Dr. Campbell?
So I think, there's a collective sort of like presentation of the Black men, which is different from the individual presentation. So I would say from a media standpoint, and that's what the world sees, that's what America sees, what television presents and what, the radio presents. On the radio, Black men are seen as rappers who call ladies names. If it's not hoes, it's bitches or whatever, but that's what the radio projects Black men to be. whether it's an artist or a rapper, that's the light. Whereas in the sports world, the TVs, etc., black men is seen as, athletes or whatever. But when it comes to like true professionals, that's not shown. That's not shown at all. It's not that it's not there. It's not like we don't have, affluent ministers and, affluent physicians and affluent teachers, but we don't see, black men collectively in that light because the media doesn't present that. It presents the other side, the side that is, make us feared or make us look like we're, threats or angry. That's what is seen collectively.
Wow. Okay. And I would have to say, as a Black woman, I agree with you 100%. Okay, Gaylon, what's your perspective?
Well, first of all, I don't think I can add anything to the perspective of the three guys. So I'm just going to just give an alternative position, not agreeing with everything that they said. And I think we're positioned, if we take advantage of it, to succeed. And this is the reason why I say this. Black America shapes culture. Now, the question is, what are we shaping? And what are we creating? For example, all popular music, whether it's country, rock and roll, jazz, blues, hip hop, house music, techno stuff, all that stuff is created by Black people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Entertainment. If we choose, we can create some different circumstances if we position ourselves to come together. What I'm talking about is a bunch of ifs.
Right.
When you start talking about money, one of my friends is Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice. If Black America was a country, it would be the 9th richest country in the world. In the world. Okay? But none of the money stays most of the money doesn't stay in our community. All right? So the question is, how are we positioned? The real question for me would be, how do we want to position ourselves? And the reason why I say that is, if we understood a basic scripture, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Mm-hmm.
With vision, write the vision and make it plain, so a runner may run when they see it.
Mm-hmm.
With vision, with direction, if we can separate ourselves from and I'm just going to use the term ghetto subculture that is being promoted as the mainstream right now, which I think is somewhat what Dr. Campbell was seeking to say.
Mm-hmm.
If we can separate that, we can be in a position to win. But that means that we have to have a better collective vision about the impacts that we want to make locally and nationally, and then internationally, because people follow our lead. When you have white and Hispanic and Asian kids trying to emulate some of our negative characteristics, that tells you that people follow us.
Mm-hmm.
The question comes into play is, if you have that level of creative power, what are you going to do with it? When I was a kid, I wanted to look like Run DMC and LL Cool J, and before that, the various artists, et cetera, et cetera. And then the entertainers or the athletes, the Michael Jordans and whatever. It's a swag about the Black man that's just different. It's just different. Right. And if we ever figure out, like, man, the conversation in America is to keep us suppressed, so we don't express the creativity and the power at the level that we could, then the sky's the limit.
You know what? As a Black woman, I appreciate you saying the thing about the swag. That's one of the things that keeps me with the Black man. I can always cross over. I get plenty of invites on the crossover. But let me tell you something. It's just something about that Black man that makes me go, and you know it. Folks, we're going to take this quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to ask this very important question. And they're going to be like, she's giving us the question now, because you got to think about it. So when you think about the Black man, Is the Black man's brand stronger today than it was 20 years ago? That's the question we're going to ask when we get back to Real Talk with the Men. We'll be right back.
My name is Christine Burkett, the inventor of the 5 F's to Love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, I don't know, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on how to find your one true love, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And thank you for downloading the 5 F's app.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 5 F's to Love is Real Talk with the Men. And the question that we left off with was, is the Black man's brand stronger today than it was 20 years ago? You know, that's a question I kind of bubble around with because I feel like someone was speaking the other day and they said, how much has changed since Dr. King was in DC? And someone asked, how much has really changed for the Black man? And that was a question. You know, I watch all these different type of documentaries and things like that. So the question I have for you guys is the Black man's brand stronger today than it was 20 years ago? I'm going to start off with you, Dr. Campbell.
It's a tough question because, as I think about 20 years ago, I think about, those men were well, not those, the ones who stood out, because I'm sure there were others that just didn't make it to the same sort of mainstream press or notoriety like the men that we now have in our history books, but they're the ones who did because they made bold changes. But there were bold men making bold moves, and the boldness was in spite of what the persecution would bring, right? Whether it's to act or to do it in peace, they all had a mission to accomplish something. I think that that boldness in that time frame needs to be recognized. Why? Because the restrictions and the challenges that I believe that were physically around then are not here now, but I think they're just shifted in different ways, right? So now I believe that though we don't have, the notion that we have to sit at the back of the bus, or the notion that we need to go to segregated schools, the system now has taken on a different sort of face, almost like, if you will, a pig in a blanket, if you will, right? Educationally, there are some suppression that's happening there. I cannot be denied, but again, it's not the same as it was then. Are people trailblazing today and trying to make a difference? Yes, there are. Though it might not be, to the same degree like they did then, but the challenges now, I believe, are just different now. Like financially, there are some challenges now that the African-American community, the Black men, face financially. Why? Because the system has put that in place. From a housing standpoint and access to affordable housing, the same way. So again, while we might not be sitting at the back of the bus or in segregated schools, we have to live in certain areas. We have to, we don't have access to certain loans, so to speak. Again, it's just shifted, if you will. So, I can't say that, that the brand is stronger then versus now. The challenges are different. And I believe that there's still people who are trailblazing a difference, though it might not make the same sort of mainstream headline, if you will.
Okay. I do agree with a lot of what you said. What about you, RJ? What's your perspective?
So I think it's yes and no, right? I think it's yes from the perspective of the Black man has a larger reach, a larger ability to reach a larger audience, to have impact on a number of things. I'll say no to tie into kind of what Dr. Campbell stated. We don't have current day the individual leadership of strong Black men that are doing it against the grain, like a Dr. Martin Luther King or like a Malcolm X.
Okay.
There's really no one that's fitting that mold right now, right? You have a hodgepodge of, you have the Black Lives Matter movement and things of that nature, but we don't have the individual, the one that's going to do it because no one else is doing it, and the why not me, why not now type of perspective. So when we live in an age now that 20 years ago predates smartphones, iPhones, Androids, laptops, social media. So you fast forward to the impact that social media has. That's why I would say that that's the yes side of the coin, because social media is such a progressively influential and great tool, but it's also a damaging tool based on how you utilize it, right? So that's kind of my perspective. I say yes and no based on those.
And no. All right, good guy. What's going on? What's your thought?
It's all good. So I think the brand, if you're speaking just in the brand of Blackman, I think we've come a long ways, but not really. I think we have a really long ways to go still today. And as far as 20 years ago, me being in the clothing brand and stuff like that, they had people like Sean John out, and which really made Puff Daddy get really big, and he's made gazillions of dollars. You had Fubu, he's on Shark Tank. So you did have some bigger brands just in general as when you're just speaking brands. So you did have some big deals and stuff going on in the business. But I think nowadays, a lot of times that our men is not as strong, so we settle for a lot cheaper than what we're really worth. Those guys that I just mentioned just then, they turned out what back then was relatively large sums of money to the average bear, like to the average person. They threw some papers at them, some millions and millions of dollars, but they had to stand. Like I said again, they had to stand on theirs, because somewhere in the meeting right there, somebody stood across the table and slid them over a piece of paper that said, "We'll give you these 15 million right here, right now. All you gotta do is just sign that." And it was a whole bunch of brothers who just signed that, quickly just grabbed a pen and just signed it. When you had some brothers that said, "Okay, that's good, 15 million, pretty cool, but let me see what the rest of them papers say over there." You know what I mean? Slide me the rest of the papers over there. And the people who slid the rest of the paper and read it, they were supposed to really been getting 100 million. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, the brothers so quick to think a whole bunch, a little bit is a whole bunch when it's really not. Because if some of those people just took just a little step further with their hard work and all this stuff, they would have noticed those papers across the other half of the papers right there had what they really was supposed to have been getting. So like I said, it's the value in yourself. Like I said, a lot of stuff is a lot to some people, but it's not their worth or their value in real life. So the guys who hurry up and sign for the 15 million, of course that's a lot of money if you broke. You ain't had nothing. But if you really was supposed to have been getting 100 million, it's really not a lot of money then when you say it that direction right there. So sometimes we gotta, as Black men, stand on what we want to stop being so thirsty and hungry up front, to know that our hard work and dedication, nobody's gonna be able to stop that, and we're gonna get ours regardless. So like I said, so Black men need to tell them, let me see the rest of those papers over there. And then 15 million, cool, but let me see the rest of that papers over there, what we got going on over there, and get your whole plate full.
Okay, and Gaylon?
Yeah, so I was just jotting down some notes as the guys were talking, and I wrote down stronger or better. I think stronger can mean obviously the level of influence. I think that's debatable. Better, I don't believe it is. The reason being is because I just asked myself a couple of questions. Do I feel as though Black men are respected as the same way they were respected 20 years ago? I don't know. Supported the same way? I don't know. Portrayed in media, TV, movies, online, etc. I don't know. Education, we kind of morphed into a society that thinks that being educated and talking with proper English is acting white. Business, as Tim was mentioning earlier, you know, if we go back more than 20 years, you know, many people, Black people in particular, that came out of the South and they went into the metropolitan areas, they created their own companies, their own businesses. They had their own real estate. My grandparents were part of that group of people who came out of Mississippi, for instance. They created their own businesses to the point where my mom never actually saw them work for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So the question comes into play is when men are portrayed in media as buffoons, you know, you don't get the Cosby sitcoms, Family Matter type dads anymore. You get buffoons on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Men in general, white and Black, but it has but it lands harder when a Black man is presented as a buffoon.
Right.
So I think it's necessary to consistently counteract that conversation. And that's why I can't say it's stronger or better, because I have questions. I can't say one way or another. I have questions because I don't know if the respect is the same that it used to be. Like, just going out in the street, I respected the men in my neighborhood to the point to where I didn't, you know, me and my friends did not act up in front of people's fathers and grandfathers and uncles. It was a level of respect. Now, the children even don't necessarily respect, and maybe it's because they've seen men who have disrespected their position. That's obviously possible. Media portrayal, and many other things that, you know, that have affected our community. So I'm not going to say, I can't say that the brand, from the perspective of just brand, looks stronger. Now we'll have outliers, athletes, the LeBron James, the Steph Currys, the Jay-Z's, the, you know, et cetera, that are viewed differently. But just overall, I'm not sure.
You know, I want to touch.
Go ahead, Jay.
You touched on, Reverend, when you mentioned Cosby Show. The problem, I believe, is if you look at TV today, right, the most popular shows are the shows that are showing Black men in a negative light. Right? You look at Power, you look at BMF, look at all these shows 50 Cent has on TV, and they're people love them. They got the highest ratings, but it's not positive. So we don't have those Cosby shows, Family Matters, Different World type of shows that show the more positive influence and the more positive portrayal of Black men and men in general. And that taints society, in addition to the music, you know, and entertainment, right? That also taints it. And then the outliers, you got the athletes, and some of them are a little off kilter. But, you know, to your point, you know, there is, I think I 100% agree, stronger or better, we really can't say. And especially the respect thing. This generation today lacks so much respect for their elders. It's mind-blowing to me, right? Because I instilled that in my children, because I was raised, children don't enter the room when adults are in the room, and children don't talk when adults are talking, right? So it's like, but now you just, it's chaos in our society, and I don't know how we reel it back in, to be honest with you.
But, you know, Christine, I don't think that this lack of respect that we're seeing, you know, in a society, it's specific to the Black community or the Black men. It is across the board. It is you know, I think some sort of virus or parasite over the years have entered, and it has destroyed the respect. Our kids these days have no respect. Like you said earlier, walking into a room, when I was a kid and I was in rural tiny Jamaica way back in the woods, I still couldn't walk through the living room if my dad and my mom were talking to another person who was their age. I couldn't do it. Now, you know, they didn't have access to TV, but they just knew that wasn't, they taught me that wasn't appropriate. But now we have a society of kids that really just don't care. I think it affects, you know, kids across the board, Black and white and whoever. I think from a brand perspective, though, I will agree with Rev and a bunch of the other guys here that indeed, you know, it's not, I can't say it's stronger. We're all at the point where we're neutral on this issue. And this speaks volume, because we cannot speak confidently that the brand is either better or worse. It's like, we believe that it all depends, and we're still in the balance on this issue.
So can I ask you guys?
Hold on for a second, Christine. Can I just jump in for a second? I think this is where the stakes are higher for our community, because in other communities they mess up. They get second, third, fourth, fifth chances. Our kids get suspended from school, kicked out of school quicker, put in jail faster, get longer sentences, don't get special ed, labeled, because just labeled sometimes that's carried through school that's not necessarily always proper. So when there's a lack of respect, when there's a lack of branding that is proper, that reflects, I think, the majority of Black men that's not being portrayed. What ends up happening is, because our kids and then our boys, the younger versions of ourselves, get fewer chances, the stakes are higher for our boys to become men, because they're dealing with the stuff that how can I say this, that society has this image of them, and if they have an image, they're going to live out that image. So the police officer is going to pull out the gun faster. All right, they're going to get suspended quicker. The judge is going to give them the longer sentence. The educator's not going to give them the same chance, or just pass on them without investing in the time and energy. So when we start talking about branding of the Black man, realize that it trickles down to the Black boy and how we're portrayed. So you live up to what you see. All right. So now, because people don't see necessarily, for instance, you can have, like Dr. Campbell, I'm sure there are associations. I see them in Chicago. 100 Black doctors, male and female, all in a space. 100 Black male lawyers downtown. No media. One Black male robs a 7-Eleven, and it's the first 5 minutes of the news.
Absolutely. That's the system of oppression.
Okay. So the stakes are higher for us and for our children, because we have to create the second, third, and fourth chances, because society won't. And it used to be a time like, well, my maternal grandfather, came from Mississippi with his wife, where they understood that. And because they understood it, they created the circumstances for their children to win. We, at our age and slightly younger, were integrated into a different world. So we weren't necessarily facing the same struggle the same way. And I think to a certain extent, we exhaled.
Got comfortable.
See, and this is a great topic. The reason why this is a great topic is because there's so many layers to this, Rev. And I'll tell you why there's so many layers to this, right? Because you just talked about what's being portrayed. And back to Christine's initial question, how is the Black men being portrayed currently? And we got to come back to mainstream media, because this is what we consume. We're consumers of the media, whether it's audio or television, and now we have social media with TikTok and all these things. We're consuming. I'll tell you what, there is a narrative. There's people who sits behind the screen and they write what is going to be the programming. Christine programs this program and she presents it. It goes a certain way because she's presenting it a certain way, right? Each week we have certain topics to cover. This is the same way. There is almost a narrative regarding how we ought to be presented. And so we're fighting against, just some larger, super larger powers that is just so difficult to combat, right? Because no matter what we do, the good things or the positive things will almost never be identified. They will never be portrayed, but the negative things will be, and that's what gets stuck in people's minds. Recently, there was a major, not a tsunami, some major sort of landslide in Australia. Major one. One of my patients went there. She got stuck for 3 weeks. Houses were washed away. Mud was so high. The devastation is crazy. But we only had 2 minutes of coverage. in the US. No one knows about this. And it's such devastating, it's such devastation that people there, so many people have lost their lives, hospital wiped out, power plants wiped out, people are without, it's terrible. But what we were presented all this time, nonsense. Mm-hmm. Well, not nonsense, but just things that are not necessarily impacting the greater majority of people. So again, the programming is what's affecting and what's damaging us. We have been presented in a certain light, and people have walked away with that perception, and it's hard to change that unless the programming change.
Well, the programming won't change because we don't own the program. And that's the problem. Let's call it what it is. So, and I agree with everything you said, Dr. Campbell, as you talk. But that is the problem. So we don't control the programming. The programming is dictated by people that don't look like us, portraying what we should be portrayed as, but we don't have any influence or impact in changing that, right?
Yeah, RJ, this is why our predecessors said the revolution will not be televised.
That's real. And that is real. That's it, bro. That's why you got to like Byron Allen, but more people should be behind what this brother is trying to do. Taking over media as a black man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Come on, man. It's tough. It's rough. Man.
It's rough, guys. It's rough.
Folks, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break. And I just want to be honest, I didn't even want to stop you guys because I was so into it. When I stopped talking, I'm in. I felt like I was watching a TV show, honestly, and I was on it, but I just wasn't really on it. I really appreciate what everybody just said, because that's what was the point of this conversation. That I wanted people to take away the perspective of a black man talking about himself and his brand and how it's being portrayed. And everybody here made the greatest point ever. Tim, when you said about the brand, that is so true. But the thing is now it's so overpopulated that we're never going to see another P. Diddy signing a big contract for his clothing line to be in all the Macy's. You know why? Because now people are selling their brand on social media and it's just as big as the brands that's in the store. And that's the thing. And I think our kids are watered down. I look at all these degrees I have on my wall. It's kids who feel like I can be big on social media and I don't even have to go to college. It's like they're creating this false sense of you can become anything when that's not true. You got to understand, even with that, like RJ said, there's a ceiling and they're only going to allow you to go so far because we're not the people who control media. Understand that even in social media, we don't control it. There's a formula to people gaining success in all of these different spectrums. Go ahead. And then I'm going to go to commercial break.
But I think it's important that this is where I'm a slightly not disagree with you, but just add some flavor.
Yes.
Every movement that has ever existed that changed society started with young people. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all those people were young folks. All right. For example, in our community, the fact that they can say, your system doesn't work for me anymore. I'm gonna create my alternative system. And I'm gonna beat you at your game. It's something we can learn from our young people. See, so if because it's easy to see the disrespect, the lack of honor, and many of the other things. But let us not miss the hustle. I'm not talking about people who are selling dope.
I'm not missing the hustle.
Let's not miss hear me when I'm saying this. So the ceiling always has to be mental. So we have to be careful with our words. Let us never tell our children that there is a ceiling for them. Let them dream as big as they can, because if they reach for the stars and they don't make it, they'll at least come down with moon dust. But don't let them think that somebody else has power over them. See, that's part of the psychology. They might have to say.
But Gaylon, the thing is, my parents told me that the sky was the limit for me, right? But the minute I got out there, I was the only black girl sitting there as a chemist, and there was a ceiling for me. It wasn't, the thing is, I appreciate the fact that they said I could do anything, but the reality of it is a black woman like me with multiple degrees, as educated as I am, as smart as I am, are you kidding me? It is no way, but a white woman could have the same thing, and her darn podcast will be on TV next week.
And I agree with all that.
That's where my problem is.
But here's the problem. When we tell our kids, when we make our pain their problem, that's where the challenge comes into play.
But
because
why?
Hear me, Christine. Hear me what I'm saying, because I know this is personal to you.
It is.
From a male perspective, I can't speak from a female perspective, but I can't speak for a male perspective. As a man, as a father, and as a husband, sometimes I got to take those shots so my child, my stepdaughter, can succeed. That's part of the process. And so even while I might be holding up the world like Atlas, I'm going to still tell them go forward and don't let anybody tell you can't have it. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the pain I've been through, regardless of the media and what the media says, regardless, because transformation has to happen in the mind. And once the mind gets trapped and locked in a position that this isn't possible anymore, then people will stop trying. That's what's happening in our community right now. We've been smacked down so many times. We don't get up anymore. So we're like the cat that gets shocked after a while. The cat in the box will stop trying to get out of the box. We have to be mindful that, yes, we've taken shocks, but if the shocks but let's not pass our pain down to our youth.
It's not, but Gaylon, is it pain or reality? My son is a black.
We create reality.
But let me ask you a question. A lot of our kids will go and get these jobs working in a Foot Locker. That's the example. Yes, that's a cool job to have, but trust and believe, when you're 30 and you got kids, you need a college degree. You need something. You can't maintain a lifestyle that you're believing or perceiving. They think you can work at Foot Locker and then drive a BMW or a Porsche or whatever. That's unrealistic.
But you're giving two extremes, though, Christine. You're giving two extremes. What I'm saying just hear me out, because you asked me. What I'm saying is, they might not have to see. You were conditioned. Go get the education and go succeed.
No, my mother was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
My dad had
I know, but you keep saying degrees. What I'm saying is that these kids are figuring out how to become millionaires on YouTube. Black kids.
That's 10%.
Okay, but here's the thing. If it has happened for anybody, is it possible for the rest of humanity? All I'm saying is everybody's gonna have their talented 10th. Okay, always. But what I'm trying to say to you, and I hope you hearing what I'm saying, is that the psychological damage that many of us have had because we've had to go into the workplace and deal with the racism has affected us in the way we teach our children. And we're telling them there's one road to success. And what I'm saying to you is the younger generation will create their own roads. They don't have to take your road, Christine. They can create their own. And sometimes it'll look like our road, and sometimes it won't.
That's not what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying is create multiple roles. I've worked for corporate. I created my own business.
We're not talking about Christine.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, this is what, no, let me say what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. I feel that right now, because I'm with children and I'm looking at these youth. These youth they're all thinking college is a joke. Starting your business, whatever. I can just get on YouTube and social media and make a name for myself and I'm going to make it big. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen for every kid. But while you're doing that, get your hustle on. Go take some classes doing this. Find something that you're great at and be great at it. But don't think you're going to be able to duplicate what somebody did. And again, it's only one Jay-Z. It's only one LeBron. Everybody can't be that and do that. But at some point, I don't want you to be a freaking 30-year-old sitting there still trying to think or believe you can go beyond that moment. Reality will set in. And I've seen this happen over and over again. And that's all I'm saying. Be realistic about where you're at and where you can go within that space. That's all. Just look at multiple opportunities.
That's putting a ceiling on it again, Christian. Yeah. I think what Gaylon's trying to say is that nowadays, these days, times now when it's coming, education is very important. Don't get me wrong. Education is very important. But it's a whole lot easier for just a kid sitting at home in front of their laptop like we're doing right now to make 6 figures than it is for them to go to school. Because just like Doc has all those plaques and stuff on his wall right there where he worked his ass off to get, there's only a percentage of some people that are going to have those plaques and take them to work. I know half the people I went to school with all these degrees and plaques and stuff in their wallet, and they're not doing any of that that they went to school for. Only thing that I see on their credit bureau is a bunch of student loans.
It's not about degrees. I keep saying that for the last time, folks. It's not about degrees. You can go get certifications and get jobs. What I'm saying to you is, when the majority of people are middle income, they're not the 10%ers. They're not going to be the Gaylons. They're not going to be the Campbell, the Dr. Campbells. I get that part. What I'm saying to you is, even here we go. Here's the example. In Detroit, the automotive company carried at least 60% of African Americans so we could be homeowners. That's no longer here. All their jobs are gone. They turn into tech jobs. They have robots doing it. So those days of you not being educated and being able to go get a job making $80,000 a year is gone here. And we still got people with that same mindset, and they're losing their houses. So what I'm saying here is real talk. If you're going to be that YouTube millionaire, do it. Do it for real. Put your heart and soul in it. But at the same time, can you please have a job that's going to get you some insurance so you have some health care? Don't do that and not have a backup. That's all. You can work at all. I don't care.
Christine, I feel you 100%. Gaylon, I feel you too. And I agree and disagree on a few things here. So let me just, I know we got to do a commercial break, but this is
we can get no commercials. Go ahead.
This is real talk. All right, so let's get this real talk in. Let's get this real talk in. So regarding these YouTube people, and this hits home because I have 3 daughters, right? One is in college. She's 21. Smart girl doing her thing. Have the middle one. God bless her soul. I pray for her every day because I do pray for this little girl every day because all she's into is lashes and beauty. She's 14 and her friends, all they're into is everything that's beautiful. And every time you see them on the phone, they're doing all these things. In her mind, she said to me, and my wife and my sister, my brother, we're all meeting for Christmas. She said, Dad, I don't understand why we have to do all these things when I can just be a star on YouTube. That's exactly what she said. I don't know why she has to go to school and learn all these things that she'll never use when all she needs to do is become an influencer. Now, do I tell her that you can't become an influencer? No, but am I concerned for her? I am, because if she continues on the same trajectory, right? And if she doesn't take this influencer thing very seriously, then she's going to have a problem, because even the people who we see are influencers now, it didn't happen overnight and it wasn't easy. If you read their stories, it's a grind and multiple failures, people telling them you can't do it over and over, rewriting their script. Finally, they have a breakthrough. It goes back to them having a different sort of work ethic that most of us who are successful have, right? Whether you channel that work ethic through getting degrees or doing whatever, it's a certain discipline that people who are successful have. They stick to it. They don't give up. They push, they press, they do whatever it's necessary to succeed. But they go above and beyond. They get up earlier. They go to sleep later, right? What they do. This is common to most people who are ultra successful. There's some common threads. But I don't see her with those common threads.
I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but I just want to be clear. But Dr. Campbell, I just want to be clear. What I was saying was, let's not tell our children that the ceiling is there.
Oh,
let them create their own space.
I agree.
You know, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. My daughter is a college graduate, and she had to be, because that was a demand I put on her. Now, she can choose what she wants to do with her life, but I still set a standard. But the thing about it is, the only thing I'm saying is, let us watch what we're saying to our children. Okay, because here's the thing. People will pick up more what they see than what you say. Your daughter sees your work ethic, Dr. Campbell, even if she doesn't understand it yet. She sees it. She sees the amount of hours of time, the skill that it takes to do what you do. And the same with Tim and RJ and Christine with her son. And with my daughter, they see now. Here's the thing. Yes, they're going to bump into reality, but bumping into reality is a good thing, because when they run out of answers, they're going to go back to the people who have answers because they've seen us have successes.
Right.
When we go back to the brand, the challenge with the Black man brand is we're not the successful Black men aren't being presented to the world. We have the reality TV love and hip hop versions, of Black men being presented to the world. There's no other way for me to say that. True. So because of that, that's the difference. But reality is a good thing. Some lessons in life you can't learn until life whoops your butt.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, but Gaylon, this is my question.
You're absolutely right with that one.
Okay, so now we're getting back to what I was saying. The thing is, they are now making it seem like love and hip hop is the reality for these Black men and all this other buffoonery when it's not. And me being a Black woman who's raised a Black young man, I mean, he's not into that, but if he was, I would be the first to say that's not reality.
But it goes back to the programming. Who owns the programming?
Well, we know who owns the programming. But this is the problem, RJ. So now you're sitting here and bringing up Gaylon's daughter, Angel. Angel was like most of the guys her age. She's got nothing to pick from because they're watching this crap. They don't see Tim, who's an amazing dad of 3 boys. They don't see a Dr. Campbell. They don't see a RJ who's an entrepreneur and he's successful. They don't see a Gaylon. They don't see that. They're seeing this buffoonery. And now we sitting here in the Black man's image is what? What is it?
But let me say this
what's
right
frustrating.
Here. A lot of this that, like RJ said, we don't control the producing. But if you look at it from the opposite end, we do control the producing and we control pretty much everything it is. Because Black men just in general are kings and they're just gonna be there. So the market, when we take our dollars and spend them with Louis and Gucci and all these whack ass tight fitting things that they have.
Come on now.
Good guy, don't get my show canceled. Good guy. Don't get my show canceled.
He's telling the truth though, Christine.
Go ahead.
The point I was making is that in the morning time when I get up, the first 20 minutes, I want some positivity. Like I said, I like to make my bed. I want some positivity. So I'm not going to turn on Channel 5 News, even though I do want to see the weather report. But I know I'm not going to get the weather report to 15 minutes in it. I'm going to get somebody got shot out North Nashville. There was 4 carloads flipped over in the train. I'm going to get all that programming in the first 20 minutes of my waking up and my brain signals firing off. So I'm gonna get all that in. So I don't do so. We as men, Black men in general, if we was more unitized together, we can control whatever we want to do. But again, goes back to I said a lot of us are selling out and signing that first piece of paper that goes over there because they don't want to wait on what hard work and your dedication is going to eventually get to. But if we turn that TV off, them first 20 minutes right there, whatever, the station is going to see that show drop. And they're going to realize they're going to come back to us to want our brand, our dollars, our watch the show. Because a lot of Black people don't know how much money and how much time that we give these people the power over us in. You know what I mean? Because the same thing that feeds you can also starve you. So we could starve them out if we really wanted to do that. I told my buddy he had to close the store over here where I live at, and I told him that the reason why he's not succeeding is because so many I always come in and spend some money with him and stuff and mess with him. But I told him the reason why he's not succeeding is not really because of him, it's because the people he's around, his so-called his friends and buddies, they're not invested in him. They're not seeing what he's doing. I told him, you know what you should do? I said, you would be better if you had this store right here and you went over across the street and started another store, but didn't put your name on it and have nothing to do with it. Because their hate of you, of scared you gonna make it or help you out, will make them run right across the street to spend that money over there with the person across the street that they thought was one up in you. So like I said, we have a lot more power than we do if we stick together and do it. If they said everybody don't spend nothing tomorrow, don't nobody Black spend nothing tomorrow, Wall Street, every damn thing could crash.
We don't realize the power we have, and that's the problem. As a collective. As a collective,
we don't.
Because what the reference earlier.
Because white folks ain't buying all that Gucci and all these funny shirts and all that stuff. They might buy 1 or 2 pieces, but Black men are spending their whole fucking advantage check on that chain and these shirts and all this stuff, keeping these people a different color in and different, instead of the black people keeping them in power. That's
All
where
right,
all
guys.
this
So
all
this,
coming
I
from.
want to get to, and I do apologize. I really, really want to get to this question. And everybody who's left comments, I do apologize. Obviously, we didn't take any commercial breaks, and we just been talking. So we're just gonna keep this real. One question I do have to ask, because it's really important. What are your guys' thoughts around right now at this moment? What you see on regular TV, like Lifetime and the rest of them, are basically a lot of gay couples. Gay black men couples. What are your thoughts around it? Instead of just portraying a black family man, business owner, a lawyer, a doctor, they are really just putting black men in these gay couple situations. What are your thoughts about that?
Man, I just was having this conversation with a group of intellectuals. I think it's too much. Like if we think about our age, we're all in a similar age group. Coming up, this stuff was taboo. You didn't see it on TV. You didn't really see it too much in life. But now it's so prevalent in our face. And, I spoke at Oak Park. I did it was a career day for the elite children. And walking through the hallways of Oak Park High School in Metro Detroit, they had a lot of signs and banners about being pro-LGBTQ and choices and empowerment. And it just blew my mind because I've never in a million years would have thought I would see it in a school, right? And I think that in tandem with what we see on TV with, black gay men and black gay couples, and I have nothing against any of them. I have some in my family, I have some that are friends, but I think it's damaging, right?
Do you think they mainstreamed it?
Huh?
Do you think they promoted it like it's mainstream and just common?
1,000%.
More so than they did before?
Absolutely. You didn't see this on TV 20 years ago. You didn't see it on TV 10 years ago, right? Maybe not even 5. In the past 5 years, I think it's become more prevalent and it's just the norm. And I think it goes back to the image they're trying to portray of us and who's controlling the programming, right? And making it acceptable, right? So for me, it's just very interesting. And I think it's doing more. I'm all about choice and freedom and expression, but I think it's doing more harm than good, personally, to me, to this current generation.
Dr. Campbell?
So I believe that so what's happening now, this movement of inclusion, it's unstoppable. There's no stopping it. And I think if you're a biblical person and you believe, it's going to happen. 50 years ago, we didn't have the means, to it's not like it wasn't being done, but the doing of it was more concealed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have more inclusion of groups. So if minority groups, whether it's female or male, want to have their rights, then every sort of little nook and cranny group will want to have rights too. And they're going to have rights. They're going to come and sit at the table as well, because their voice needs to be heard as well. So the movement that we've seen started with, different people, different groups. That is going to just continue to get bigger and bigger, louder and louder, until guess what? Until we're gone from this earth. And then that becomes a norm.
Because
the people 50 years from now, I promise you, people 50 years before this, if they watch the mainstream, like TV that we have now, they would just, the sight of what they would see in the music videos or the words of the song, they would just die, because it would really be too much. But we have become to the point now where this is norm for us to listen to these songs. Oh, it's normal to hear, these curse words in these songs, because that's our generation. I promise you, 50 years from now, I pray for my kids, because it's going to be a whole different space. And I can't even imagine that space, because 50 years before this, I don't know if the people in the 50s, if they would see people twerking on stage and that was okay. No. So imagine 50 years from now. Every generation, there is oh my gosh, what's happening now? What's happening? But it is this evolutionary process that's taking place where morals are continually degrading. And I believe that, if you're a spiritual person, it's going to happen, because these things are pointing towards end times.
I have to just add one thing that I forgot to say. The thing that bothered me the most about this movement is that this group of people has laws and rights that a whole race doesn't have as Black people. That to me is just the most mind-blowing and utterly ridiculous thing ever. That's all I got to say. I'll let you guys continue.
Okay. Campbell, good guy.
I mean, I really don't get into that kind of politicking because, I mean, it's not only just in Black. We're Black men. It's not only just in Black. It's just everywhere. And I don't, I don't really get into what the next person is doing. I feel like everybody can be or do whatever you want to do. And, that's fine. I don't actually agree with you doing it, but it's none of my business. And I would never tell nobody to do something other than they wanted that makes them feel good or makes them happy. But all I ask you to do is respect that I'm not with that. You know what I mean? If you want to be this or that, like I give you the respect to be this or that, give me the same respect that I don't have to agree with that. Okay. Type of thing. So that's about for it. Because nowadays it's pretty big, and like I said, and then it all kind of goes back to money. That's a lot of dollars into. Well, I don't even know how to say it. LBJD. What is LBJ? Whatever it's called now. LBJD or whatever they got going on. So it's a lot of
LGBTQ.
Yeah,
LGBTQ or whatever. I can't deal with good guy.
I'm gonna have to text you that.
Oh my
God. LGBTQ.
Okay.
So that's a big thing nowadays, and that's what they're rolling with, and so.
Okay, fair enough. And Gaylon?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. And we've gone over time already. I'm seeing.
Oh no, you're fine. Go ahead.
People advocate for what they want to see on TV and media. That's the first thing. I think we have to be mindful of that. People advocate. Currently, what organization is around that promotes a particular view of the Black male, whether it's boy or adult? It's no one advocating. So when people realize that there's power in imagery, because you got to realize that we think in images. If I say think of your dream vacation, you think of whatever that imagery is for you. That gets impressed upon your own subconscious mind, and then you play it out. So people who are feeling as though they're oppressed, if they put together a game plan and they seek it and they choose to go forward and integrate into areas so they can promote what they believe should be promoted as an agenda, they're going to do it. My question is, where is our agenda? Now, let me just be clear. I'm, like many of you all have, gay family members and people at the church and et cetera. So I'm not anti anybody's anything. What I will say is this, though, and I think this is key. I'm about to say something very controversial. I don't know if any of you all are going to agree with what I'm about to say now. So the challenge with religion, because this is a part of the conversation. The challenge with religion is that especially within the Christian and Islamic movements, is that we believe that the world has to get exceptionally bad, and then Jesus, God, Jehovah, Allah, somebody's going to come in with the spiritual nuke bomb to change things, without realizing it is our responsibility to change things ourselves. And this doesn't have anything to do with this, but hear me when I say this. About 20 years ago now, I was at a conference with doctors from the University of Chicago. It's maybe 50 doctors and it's maybe 100 clergy. And we're talking about the issues of Black America. We got more diabetes, more high blood pressure, more everything that's health could go wrong. We got more of it. So these doctors are explaining this is what we would like to change in the next 25 to 30 years, right? Then these preachers start getting up and start asking these doctors all these questions. So I just asked the person who brought me, who was one of the leaders. I said, why are these preachers up here asking this? I said, it doesn't make sense to me. And they said, why? Why would you say that as a minister? I said, because these same ministers are tomorrow going to get up and tell people that the world is about to end. You have to be invested in the world you want to change. So from my perspective, and all due respect to the clergy out there that might be listening, I have a different viewpoint. This belief that's been covering for 2,000 years that we're not responsible for the world we see, and that it can only be destroyed to be changed. is a part of the psychology that's allowing us to not take ownership of what we want to see in our society, the health, the prosperity, the well-being, the wisdom, the respect, because there are people who are waiting for it, for the destruction of the world. So they said, okay, this world's going to hell in a handbasket, and when Jesus comes back, Big Daddy's going to clean it up with the rag, versus recognizing that Jesus put the rag in your hand. You clean it up. What you don't want to see, what you think needs to be changed, what you think needs to be transformed, how you want to be portrayed in the media, in the world, in the life, and in your community, you have the responsibility of changing. Stop waiting for God to change it when God has given you the power to do it. That's my message.
Amen.
Stop talking all this stuff about supernatural heavens falling from the sky when God has empowered people just like us on here and the 4 men that are on this call to be able to do the stuff. I might not be able to control the media like RJ said, but what can I control?
What can you control?
What can I do? Who can I influence? Who can I lead? Who can I protect? Who can I support? Who can I teach? Who can I get involved with to be able to transform this world so when people see and think about a black man, an alternative is given? Because if we all picked up that task, instead of waiting either for the next man to do it or the supernatural man to do it, then the world will really get changed. But we're still waiting for Big Daddy in the sky to get a smackdown to the world versus changing what needs to be changed in front of us right now.
I can just stop. I can just shut down the show right now. Thank you so much, everybody. Gaylon, I want to say that was it. That is just the point, is that we control how people perceive us. And if we're not doing our part to shift the mindset of our own community, that's what concerns me. I remember back in the day we were in school, the NAACP, they had a little junior. You could sign up and get your little card to be part of the NAACP. If you ask a kid right now, are they part of NAACP? They're going to say no. And I'm not going to be angry about it. You're right at all. Because one of the things that somebody said is, what are we doing? The organizations that were out there who were making those types of changes for us and supporting, and they would make sure that the media was at the 100 and black men, lawyers and doctors and stuff, was the NAACP. They were there, and I'm trying to figure out where are all of these voices and these organizations right now. You hardly hear about the fraternities and the black sororities getting out there and making sure that the media publicize the positive things that they're doing and the impact that they're making in the community. And that concerns me. You know why? Because we are at the news stations. We are black folks. We in there. So why aren't we connecting those things to what we're doing? It
comes out of a heart of service. The guys on this call, because this is a show about black men. The men on this call have a heart of service. So regardless of the communities that we work in, the different occupations that we work at or whatever, we still have a heart
of service.
When you show up recognizing that it's bigger than you, it's more than you, and you might not be able to do it all, but you can do something.
I like that, to do something. Go ahead.
That was well said. I was asked to speak last year in Vegas. They had a 100 black men sort of meeting, and I was asked to speak on a medical panel, talking about the disparities and minorities in medicine, et cetera, and what's preventing more representation. And the conversation was, it got really, really heated because there was really differences in opinion as to why. There was a group of, there was the president of the medical school of Howard and the president of Meharry Medical School was there. I was on the panel as well. And like you said earlier, or similar to this, waiting for the Samson to come to deliver us, waiting for the NAACP to put together a coalition to do something. It's not. Times have changed. Waiting for Malcolm X and Martin Luther King to emerge again. We're in different times, I believe. I believe the microcosms that we exist in now we can be the Martin, we can be the Malcolm to the market, to where we are. And that's what we're called to be now, because the global change that we're looking for, no, those times are gone. What we have to do is take that responsibility to make the difference with where we are, letting people know sort of how a Black man should be seen, how we should be represented. You become the example. If we don't take that on, then that's where the society really, that's when we fail, because it becomes individual. It's no longer collective, because we don't have the collective power anymore. We don't.
And that is so true. And our last question I have to get in tonight, because it does impact our community. Do you think the way Black men are depicted is impacting how women think about men in relationships, Black men specifically?
I think broken relationships impact women more. It's important that we recognize that that men have also picked up the negative stereotypes, Black men, and portray them. And it's important for us to recognize that how when I was growing up, people watch how you treat their mother.
Yeah.
Okay. People watch how you interact with your own mother and your own sisters and the women in your family, how you treat people. So the question comes into play is it affecting? Yes, but that's part of it. But understand that what it's really generating is a sense of pessimism. All right. So you're not going to see successful marriages on TV. You're not going to see that in the movies. It's always buffoonery. And because it's buffoonery, it's psychologically creating a sense of pessimism, because they're seeing it in the media. They pick up their phones, they see it, they can't ignore it. 52% of all marriages end in divorce. The marriage rate is the lowest out of all the demographics in the United States. African Americans are married the least, and African American women in particular are absolutely last, because Black women prefer Black men. So we have to do a better job of casting the vision of possibility to our children, both men and women, because these guys are like, excuse the term, these thoughts, and these men and these women are like, these whorish men and all this. So the conversation stays at a low level.
Yeah.
We're responsible for bringing it up higher. So when people understand, so be that good example, so your daughter can know it when she sees it. My daughter doesn't see it, so she's gonna leave the guys alone until she sees what she sees, because I'm the model.
Exactly.
So let us be mindful of that. Let us model what we want to see. All of us, all four guys have said, we got to take responsibility for our own stuff. And that don't mean we'll get it always right. That doesn't mean we'll always be perfect. That doesn't mean any of those things. What it does mean is, let us put our best foot forward and trust that God can use us to do mighty things. You don't have to be extra special for God to use you. You can be quite ordinary. If you got an open mind and heart, God can use you.
Sign me up, y'all. Sign me up. Excuse me.
Indeed.
I love it, man. Come on. Get me to church now.
I know. Like, I want to say, does anybody else have any comments?
I got a quick question for you, Christine.
Yeah.
So why do you think it is that as big as an elephant is, and they chain him down to just a stake in the ground, why do you think that he's not big enough to pull that up out of the ground and go on about his business?
I have no idea. Why?
Figure that out and you'll figure your life out.
Really? Figure that out and figure your life out.
The real reason is because they train him at a young, they put that same big stake in the ground when he's a baby elephant, he can't do it. And they leave it on him through the whole time. So even when he's bigger, getting back to what we're saying, is he's programmed into that he can't pull that stake out of the ground, which he's big enough to lean forward or fall down and snatch it out the ground. I was just going to pick at you on that, Christine. But yeah, that's the reason. In getting back to what we're talking about, is the programming over time that stake in the ground is too big for you to pull up out the ground, even if you're a big elephant.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I use that image in my classes. I actually use that as a PowerPoint. of that image of the state.
Christine,
I have a
y'all.
picture. I have a picture of a.
All right, they look Christine.
Yeah, actually, I have a picture.
Listen, I'm gonna keep it real, Tim. If you're trying to insinuate, I should have known that.
The challenge still on.
The challenge can be on.
Yeah, I don't care about no challenge.
Look, the challenge can be on, but we gotta keep it real.
I said we're gonna have to wrap up soon, y'all.
Christine doesn't know everything. So, folks, I want to say I do apologize. We have over 19 comments, and I do apologize. We did not share any of those because we got so into this conversation. But I want to say thank you so much. Just a few of them because I know people were chiming in. And Harvey, thank you so much. A really good friend of mine. He said the latter point regarding personal responsibility is a good point. It's amazing how I always say the men on this podcast, even the ones that are not here, you guys were all picked intentionally because of your views and perspectives. But not only that, because I feel that all of you are really excellent examples of great men, and especially great Black men. And I have so much respect for all of you. And that's the reason why I chose you. I personally did that. And the thing is that I wanted people to see positive Black men on this podcast having intellectual conversations. And yeah, we joke and play, we keep it real, but I like that everybody comes with their own perspective and viewpoint. But at the end of the day, all of you guys, I kid you not, if I had to go anywhere in the world and say, do I know any great Black men? I could point to everybody that's on this podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of the 5Fs to Love brand. And thank you for being uniquely you. All of you guys are absolutely amazing men. And folks, again, I apologize. We've never done a show where we didn't do no commercials and share comments from our viewers. So viewers, thank you so much for watching. But when it gets hot, it get hot. Y'all see it get a little hot up in here. Okay. So listen, thank you so much for watching the 5Fs to Love Real Talk with the Men. Be sure to catch us next week because we don't talk about what a man wears. Does it really kind of say who he is? These days, you never know. But I know we do have to tell our men. One of the shows I watched last week, it was a TV show. The man said, as a Black man, you can't tell my Black son that he can't wear a hoodie because you're a white man trying to raise a Black boy. That's why I want to raise my son. And that's what made me think about this show. Something as simple and minute as that. Whoever would have thought that we would have to tell our kids, don't put a hood on your head? I wore hoods when I was a little kid. Whoever would have thought that if you're a Black man, you would have to tell your kid when the police pull you over, make sure your hands is down on your lap. Don't say nothing, don't do nothing, and put your driver's license up in the van. So when you're going to go reach for it, they don't think you're reaching for a weapon. That is unreal, but that was on a show, and that's what made me think about next week's show, was that. It was so intense. So, folks, I can't wait to that conversation because it's going to be heated. I'm very sure. I love all my Black men. And by the way, Christine will cross over, though. We're going to keep that real, too, though. But my first choice is always the Black man. See you guys next week at 8 o'clock. Real Talk with the Men. Thanks, guys.
Good to see you, fellas.